Greetings to everyone. My name is Krati Tomar of class 12th Humanities from the Vidyanjali International School, Indore, MP. This is my art integration project of sociology, and my topic is sociology and social movements. So, basically, why the study of social movements is important for sociology. So, let me say or let me clear that from the very beginning of the discipline, the very beginning of sociology, sociology was interested in social movements. We have studied social movements when we were in grade 11 and we were in grade 10 or 9. It was a part of social science at that time, but now as it is specified, so we study it in sociology, and some examples are given of French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, food riots, and basically these revolutions were basically a combination of many social movements. Then after that, we come to know that according to Durkheim, his concern was that he concerned on how social structures enable to social integration, that how the structure, a social structure lead to the social integration and social grouping and social gatherings. So earlier it was seen that social movements were the disorder in a society, but the followers of Karl Marx, they don't feel that it is a collective violent action. Right now, as we can see, if we want to stand against any government bill like right now we can say that the Kisan bill, that people are protesting for it. So right now we don't think that protest, a social movement is a disorder in society, but earlier it was a notion that it was considered a disorder, but right now it is not considered as a disorder, and which is a thinking of the followers of Karl Marx. So one follower of Karl Marx, E.P. Thompson, he said that crowd and mob are not always made up of young violent behavioral group members. They have moral economy. It says that the crowd and mob is not always made up of the people who are violent in behavior and just being antisocial kind of stuff, but it is basically made up of all the person who want some good thing to happen or those who want justice. And in this it is given that the group which is the one who stand ahead in any social movement is the poor people in urban areas. They always protest because protest is the only thing they have to show their anger and to show their displeasure against the deprivation. So there are some theories of social movements given. So the first theory is the theory of relative deprivation. The second theory is the Olsons Theory. And the third is the resource mobilization theory. So let's see in its depth. So the theory of relative deprivation, it says that the basis of social movement is a feeling that a social group feels less prosperous than other groups around them. Like an example is given, if women think that they are paid less than the other people working, especially the male people working in their office, then this will lead to a social movement. So the result of this thinking is it leads to a successful collective protest. And this theory, basically the theory of relative deprivation, it emphasized that the role of psychological factors is a key to social movements. Like this theory says that psychological factors, the factor of perceiving, the way we perceive things from our mind, that leads to a social movement. So basically, it is all about perception. Based on perception, this theory has a limitation, and its limitation says that it is a mere perception, and perceptions cannot always result into the social movements, because there are some perceptions which doesn't lead to the social movement. So it's the limitation of this theory. So the next, Olson's theory, it was based on rational utility maximizing individual. So basically, Olson's wrote in his book The Logic of Collective Action that social movements are collection of rational individuals to gain their self-interest. Olson also say same as Mr. EP. He also says that the social movement is a collection of rational individuals, means the people who know what they want, and if they are deprived of that, they protest against it. And he also says that the people who join the movement thinks in two ways. They have two things in their mind. The first thing is to gain something, and the second thing is the risk. Like if they will think that there is more risk than the gains, then they will not join the movement. So basically, he tells about the Olson's theory tells about the mindset of the people, that the social movement is consist of the rational individuals, and these rational individuals have two things as their priority. First thing is to gain something by joining that thing, and the second thing is if the risk is there, and the risk should be less than the gains. So this is about Olson's theory. Then we see the source mobilization theory. This theory was proposed by MC Carthy and Zalt, and this theory was proposed by these two, and they rejected Olson's theory, or we can say Olson's assumption, and they argued that social movements success depends on its ability to assemble resources. So it says that it doesn't mean that rational people come together and all such rubbish thing. It is not. Rational is something which is a myth. Social movements are the movements in which the leadership or the organization and the communication skills are so strong that it gather people in mass to make a thing happen. So basically, it's like to collect people, and this doesn't matter that the people have the correct notion about what they are saying or what they are not saying. So this is a correct example of the situation right now we are seeing. So these protests, this theory is very much suitable for the protests which are going right now. And the critics of this theory says that it is not that it is always dependent on the assembly of resources and all that thing, but it is also based on the creation of new identities and symbols. Like there are people who not only want to be satisfied with the things, but they want themselves to be different from others, and they think that being different from others, having different identities, like the people of who are demanding for Khalistan, this is the perfect example of the critics of this theory. So this is how we finish the theories, and the summing up of these theories says that the social conflict always does not lead to social actions, means all the social conflicts which are in the place taking place in the society does not lead to a social movement. And example is given, an illustration is given with the example of a book written by James Scott, Weapons of the Weak, in which he talk about the labor of Malaysia. So that's all which was there in this topic. And thanks for watching.